Hello everybody, Lewis Nichols here. Welcome to my channel, and might I say you're all looking grand today. I can tell you've been working out. Keep up the good work. This is the station where we used to talk about this adventuring dwarf named Dresden. Now we do world building for 5e Dungeons & Dragons. World building and other stuff too. Today we're going to talk about random encounters, except in this case, it's going to be pretty planned out. High Ground is a versatile little encounter map, best used in a pre-flight era of the campaign. I have a warm climate in mind, possibly jungle, but if you've ever seen the summertime brush in northern climates, you will know that this map works for that climate as well. The main idea here is the choke point. To the right, there's a marsh. Lily cover makes it impossible to see what might be lurking below. An ancient ruin marks the entry to the dangerous-looking section of the trail. Beside it is a newish altar, decades as opposed to centuries. This area is hilly, and a treacherous 50-degree slope determines the left side of the trail. I would present the encounter as, you approach a choke point in the road. An enormous stone-covered face marks the point where a hilly slope comes down to near the edge of the marsh. It's wide enough for a wagon, but thin enough to make you nervous. The brush around the road, the lily-covered swamp, and the forest canopy could be hiding anything. You are 20 feet away from the idol. What do you do? Passive perception only reveals the obvious. There are many points where danger might lurk. The shrine has relatively recent offerings consisting of ash piles, a few silver coins, and a copper bowl. A high active perception check at this point will still reveal very little. There are frogs and turtles around the edge of the marsh. Bubbles occasionally trickle to the surface in what may be a deeper pool. Wind pushes at the trees, throwing shadows and causing them to creak. There's wildlife all around you, but nothing particularly unusual. The statue appears to be old, perhaps a monument to some ancient master of the swamp. My goal here is to keep them focused on the ruin and afraid of turning their backs on the water. After they waste some time on the idol, I really want to hear, we move on, but keep our eyes on the marsh. If they try to avoid the trail and circle around one way or the other, I'll warn them of delays. Unless they're traveling extremely light, it could cost them half a day or more. Assuming they finally pass down the road, they'll find an ambush. As they hit the midway point, heavy crossbows will fire warning shots. Hold there, throw down your gold, and move along. Unfortunately, you'll have to do the work to balance your encounter, but the PCs don't have to have much of a chance. More range fire held in reserve could easily drop one or two first or second level characters if they aim for the soft targets. If the highwaymen get an advantage, they might ransom back the wounded. If the party charges up the hill, the bandits might be able to hold them at bay. Camouflaged barriers will cost them a lot of movement. They're already at half for difficult terrain, so the 15-foot climb will consume 30 feet. Alright, fighter, you've expended 20 feet of your movement when you come to a barrier of twisted timbers. If you try to pass, you'll be halfway over and vulnerable at the end of your turn. A reflex check or strength check will be required to make any progress at all. This might stop them short, or they may push in. If they attempt to cross through at any point, it's 15 feet of movement and an action. A failed reflex check will entangle them in a mass of timbers, ropes, and grease. It's a formidable obstacle, and it is well designed on many levels. The party may try to circumvent the main slope, probably the best idea for lower levels. There is a good chance they will have gotten by the squeeze point and returned for revenge. If they pass across the northern area, it might well lead them to the proper approach, but even that's dangerous. The northern slope is just as bad as the east, but perhaps not so well camouflaged. The actual path can be impeded by kicking down these logs. In any case, if it isn't obvious, these X's are pits. Everything about this is scalable. You can give the defenders a druid, spike growth them, entangle them, just like the party always does to you. Maybe the bad guys have an elite archer with sharpshooter. And there are so many more tricks. Attack the characters in the barrier with reach weapons. All NPCs know the best attacks are unilateral. Did somebody say that was a greased up barricade? Anybody got a match? Nimble escape, or any ability that lets the bad guy easily disengage, will allow defenders to attack without repercussion. Finally, a constant demand to surrender, "We only want your money," will be a constant temptation, especially to those party members who are threatened. Amping things up even further, the camp can defend against flight with tree dwellers and arboreal traps. Nets strung between trees will slow the party. Smaller nets might cause a crash. And remember, these guys are range specialists. As best they can be at the level you make them, they will definitely have those heavy crossbows. And you really want to take things up another level? A strong band of thieves will already know these guys are coming. Put a few aquatic partisans in the water. Maybe Genasi, maybe sea elves, maybe some Warforged or a Goliath with a water-breathing ring. When the PC toughs are charging up that hill, your SEAL team comes out to threaten the party's back line. You can use a whole gamut of social monsters as the bad guys. The operation I've envisioned is just Valido bandits, or something like goblins or even ogres. Oh, but it could be giants. Or maybe they just have a giant among them. On the other hand, it could be a mind flayer or beholders leading the camp. It's whatever you feel inspired to make it. So that's my ideas for the baseline encounter. You can just as easily use the map for an attack from the water, though you'll need to expand things out a bit. I like the idea of an Achu, but it could be anything from those frog guys to a hydra. Hell, it could be a dragon turtle. Back to the ruin. Anything goes again. There could be a cavity underneath. It could be home to some undead or fiend. Maybe there's a puzzle to be solved. You could even tie it back to the bandits on the hill. Maybe they've planted treasure underneath just to butter up passers-by. They might use illusionary magic, or maybe the ruin possesses some power that only they can control. Well, folks, just like that, we've come to the end of another episode. I am so glad that you could all stop by. I think it's been fun, and I sincerely hope that you can get some use out of these ideas. It's on Incarnate, by the way. I'll try to remember to post a link in the description, but you can also search Lewis Nichols on Incarnate, and it should be there, along with some of my other stuff. One of my goals for this year is to double my public map count. Alright, seriously, that's it for the day, though. Thanks for listening. I hope you all have a great rest of the week. Cheers.